Hey everyone, this is NHL Hockey Sports, and today we're talking about my Seattle expansion, my mock draft, my final mock draft here going into Wednesday on the 21st, I believe. Yes, Wednesday the 21st is expansion draft. Now we have the expansion draft on that day, and yeah, so here is my final expansion draft. And I'm also going to think about doing a hot take one, maybe, just maybe, maybe. We'll see about that. We'll see. We really will see. I'm not sure if I'll do that or not, but there is a possibility if I have time. So, let's get into my final expansion draft, Seattle Kraken, who they will be picking for Wednesday. Well, it's just my thoughts. But starting off with the forwards, then defense, then goaltending, and then we'll look at the cap space and how much cap we had left over, and yeah, and what they can do, not just the expansion draft, free agency, trades, things like that too. So let's start off with the forwards. The next thing's coming up, all the forwards, so I'll explain every single one, why I think that'll be a great idea. So don't be overwhelmed. Let's start off with you with the forwards. Here we go. Starting off with Max Domi. Now, Max Domi, Columbus Blue Jacket, got traded from Montreal to Columbus for Josh Anderson. That actually, it wasn't 1-for-1. It was actually a pick going to Columbus, but really, it was like a 1-for-1. Clearly, Montreal won that. Josh Anderson staying with Montreal long term. And Domi unprotected, thinking that the Kraken can go for Max Domi. I think the beginning of the season he will be out with an injury. Was a shoulder injury, I believe, but he should be back, and he could have a bounce back year. John Tortorella used to be the Columbus Blue Jackets coach, of course, and he was more defensive minded type of coach, discipline, all that stuff. But Domi's more of an offensive center. That's how he thrives, and he needs to do more of that. And a coach who's more defensively, you're not gonna get the points. Same thing with Laine. He's an offensive, shoot the puck, great sniper. John Tortorella is the coach. Hinders his offense ability. Same thing with Max Domi. He could have a really good year with Seattle, and we'll see what happens. We really see. The next one for the Islanders, I have them picking Josh Bailey. There's really two options for me: Josh Bailey or Jordan Eberle. I picked Josh Bailey, $5 million contract. He's 31, I believe, but Josh Bailey, what a great player he is. I really like Bailey. It might be a mistake of them leaving him out because last year in 54 games, 35 points, and 19-20 season, 68 games, 43 points. So this guy can score, get up the points, and he's a great top six winger, and he could really do a fantastic job. Now, Josh Anderson also is a guy who has next 3 years on a deal, the 2024. So we'll see how that goes, but definitely, I think it's a really good idea to keep pick up Josh Anderson. That might be a regret by the Islanders. They might want Eberle over Bailey, but Bailey would be my option if I had to choose. And he would be a great top six, absolutely, like I said. Next for the Lightning, I know they said Tyler Johnson, Yanni Gourde, guys like that, but I have them picking Alex Colon. And this is the guy the Lightning do not want to lose because it might sting him. And it will. Let me actually change his name. Hold on a sec. The O and the R in the wrong place. Sorry about that. Here we go. Makes more sense. There we go. Alex Colon, he's a fantastic playoff performer. He's really good playoff performer. Gets the key goals and the key moments. Regular season, he's not bad. He's solid, but when the playoffs come around, he is fantastic. On the wing, top six winger. He's from Montreal, Quebec. But very good player. And you know what? He has a really good cap hit. 33 points in 56 games. $4.4 million contract for the next 2 years. He waived his no trade clause, I guess. He submitted a 16 no trade list. I guess Kraken won't on that list. So that means that the Kraken have a chance to go for Cologne. And he's not 5, 6, 7 million. 4.4 million. This is a bargain because Steve Yzerman signing these genius contracts. And you know what? I would take advantage and be like, okay, you want us to take Tyler Johnson? That's separate. Let us pick Alex Colon. Then we'll look into Tyler Johnson. And if you want to give a pick, prospect, that stuff, we'll take it on. but we want Cologne. I think that's exactly what the Kraken should do, for sure. Moving on to the Colorado Avalanche pick, Jonas Donskoy, 29-year-old. He has another 2 years left, $3.9 million contract. Very solid, top 9 player, 31 points in 51 games. He'll give you 30 points, 35, never hit 40 points in his career. 37 was the most he's done with San Jose 3 years ago, but very good. He'll definitely get you about 30 points a season. But you gotta like him on the wing. You really gotta like him, and he does a great job. And that's depth. Talking about if you need depth, Jonas Donskoy is a perfect player to have depth. Absolutely. So Donskoy definitely a fantastic pick. Okay, let's go on to the next player. The next player we'll talk about is Tanev. Now, Brandon Tanev is a guy, not Christopher Tanev, which is his brother on the defense. He is protected by Calgary. We're talking about Brandon Tanev, who's a 29-year-old from Pittsburgh, on the wing, undrafted, but of course the Jets have had him. But now he's part of the Penguins. He wanted to sign that long-term deal of that 6-year, $3.5 million contract. I think that's a great contract. I know it's a little high, but what he brings, a little of everything, you gotta like it. 3.5 for the next 4 years. Why not? He's submitted a 10-team no trade list. Of course, that means Kraken on it. 16 points in 32 games, but he brings a lot of everything. Everything he brings: depth, grit, energy to the team. Excuse me there. So, a lot of things he has brought to the team. Absolutely, for sure. Moving on now to the Toronto Maple Leafs pick, and that is Jared McCann. They just traded for Jared McCann, too, from the Pens. But Jared McCann, I think, will be fantastic. He can do down the middle. 32 points in 43 games last year for the Pens. 35 points in 66 games the other year. I think he is just a solid center down the middle. 25-year-old. More of a third line. Second line, maybe. Third line. In this case, he might have to be a second line center. But you know what? He can bring a lot of stuff. And I think that's a great pick. Over Kerfoot, I would do McCann over Kerfoot. I just like McCann. Kerfoot, 23 points in 56 games. I don't mind him, but I think I would go with Jared McCann. Out of the best player, Jared McCann would be my guy. Next one's a very interesting one. I don't think many people are looking at this player either, though. But Zemes Girgensons for Buffalo. 27-year-old, picked in 2012 draft, 14th overall in the first round of Buffalo. 19 points in 69 games last year. He didn't play actually last year whatsoever. 19-20 season last year he played 69 games, 19 points. He'll get you 20 points. Lately, he hasn't gotten you any 20 points, but I think that might be a genius contract to bring in. Absolutely. Why not? Bottom 6, bring him in for absolutely. I think that'd be a fantastic pick. Moving on to now Kel Youngcook. Kel Youngcook, the 29-year-old, picked actually from Detroit, but never played with Detroit. Only the Predators in that David Legwan trade for a while back in 2014. But Youngcook, he's been with the Predators for a little while now. 28 points in 49 games last year. He'll get you about 30 points looking at his career. He might be a good depth guy. Looking at a couple of depth guys here. Donskoy, Cologne. Now, Youngkook could be very good. Absolutely. I think that would be a really good pick. And there's a lot of forwards you can pick from the Predators, knowing that the Predators want the option of 8 skaters, and they went for 5 defensemen. So there's a lot more offensive players out there that the Predators have not picked. And it's like 3 forwards they pick. I think Cunnin, Forsberg, and one more other player, I think. Why can't I think of it? I don't know who the other one is. I forget. But I know Duchene's out there, Johansson. I don't know if they want to go with that. Unless the Predators do a trade and figure things out. But let's go on to the next one because we're running out of time here. Going to long heel, but going on to Dylan Gambrell. And Dylan Gambrell is actually from Washington State. So, hey, look at that. It might be a good idea. 12 points in 49 games. He's a solid player. Probably fourth line. The Sharks just signed him for a $1.1 million contract for 1 year. Why not? Picked in 2016. He's a solid player, I guess you can say. So why not pick him? Just why not, right? Moving on now to Voykov. Voykov was a guy that the Ducks picked. Up in the from the Lightning, looked really good after for Moran in the 7th-round pick, but Voykov looked pretty solid. 8 points in 18 games with the Ducks, looked really good. And guess what? They should have. I think they should have protected him over Nicolas Deloyer. Why would you protect Deloyer? The Kraken are not picking Deloyer. I would have just protected Voykov instead. You know what I mean? So whatever. But he might be a good depth guy for sure. Mason Appleton. I heard that the Jets were trying to trade him before the expansion deadline. Unfortunately, they did not get that done, and Mason Appleton, I think, will just fall right in the hands of the Seattle Kraken. 25 points in 56 games, 25 points in 56 games. Just a really good, solid, third line winger. I think he'll just be solid depth piece again. Moving on to the Rangers pick. This one's Gauthier, Julien Gauthier. I think he's 23 years old, a winger, $775,000 for the next deal. 8 points in 30 games. I think it's a really good pick. Julien Gauthier here. The Rangers are hoping for a really good year by him next year, but I think the Seattle Kraken be like, well, we want that instead. Thank you very much. We want him instead, and I think that's exactly what they're going to go for. Is Julien Gauthier, absolutely. Moving on to Dominic Cahoon. He had not the best season, but he played with the Penguins, a little with the Sabres, which I was impressed with the Sabres, and the Blackhawks, which I was impressed with. And with the Blackhawks this year, not much impressed. I wasn't really impressed with him. He played a little McDavid, but that's about it. He did, but never was impressive to me this year. So hey, why not try him out? There's not much offensively guys you can find from the the Oilers except me, David Draisaitl, and Nugent Hopkins. But those are guys who are gonna be protected. Excuse me, there. So that's how those will go. Sean Corrali, instead of Jeremy Lazon, I went for Corrali. Good, he's just a good third, fourth liner, and he gives you 9 points in 47 games last year, 23 points in 69 games. 2 years ago, I think he's just a good 20-point guy, and he just brings some good stuff. Absolutely, I really do think he does. Moving on now to Cole Lynn. He's a guy that he looked really good the last couple of months of the Canucks. I think I'll give him a chance. Why not? Michael Bunting, the Coyotes had him for like 20 games. He had like 10 points in 20 games. Looked really good. He's a UFA, but I think the Kraken will pick him up and do some stuff, even though the Coyotes didn't have many players to, be worried about for losing. Except Aiden Hill, they traded to the Sharks, so that's all set for sure. So I think Bunting would be a good option for sure. In Montreal, I have him picking, the Seattle Kraken picking Paul Byron. Paul Byron brings a lot of speed. Just the question about him is just his contract. Paul Byron this year, $3.4 million for the next 2 years. That might be a little of a stinger for them. 16 points in 46 games. Really good playoffs this year by Paul Byron. 6 points in 22 games. He was there for the key moments. He stepped up his play. But I don't know. I don't know about Paul Byron. They might get him. They might not. We'll see. Now let's move on to the defense. Here's the defense. Starting off with, I have PK Subban going to the Seattle Kraken. He has a shot from the point. And I think, he has 1 year left, $9 million contract. If he doesn't work out well, the Kraken don't do well, trade him at the deadline, get some assets for him, some picks, maybe a prospect. I don't know how much you'll get for him, but I think that'll be a great idea. $9 million, 1 year, get him off your hands if it doesn't work. If it does, sign him for cheaper. Why not? That's how you can play it. If he likes it there, he has a lot of personality, can really do great with the fans, for sure. Moving on now to Mark Giordano, same thing. He has 1 year left, but this time $6.75 million contract. He has a no trade clause. Put out his 19 list ones not to go to. But this guy I would have. Absolutely. You get Mark Giordano. If you want to trade him at the deadline, you can get great assets. You can get a lot for him. For someone who would love to have Giordano, a lot of teams would be asking for him. You can get a really good price for him. If you want to ship him off, you can. Now, next for the Flyers, I have them picking, for Kraken picking Shane Gostisbehere. I know Voracek was out there, JVR, but I don't think they're going to be attracted to those contracts. Shane Gostisbehere, when Shane Gostisbehere had the best season, it was under Dave Haxtell, which he's with the Kraken, and he had a really good, 60 points for Ghost, Gostisbehere. Yeah, he has 65 points in that year, and that's what Dave Haxtell was the coach. So he can turn around his career. I really do think he could. Moving on to now the Capitals pick here for the Kraken here, Brendan Dillon. Now this was real. John Carlson, Dmitry Orlov, and Van Riemsdyk were the three defensemen they have protected. Why Trevor Van Riemsdyk? He's your seventh defenseman. Like, you wouldn't protect Dillon? Do they not want Dillon for 3 more years? Do they not want Schultz for how many years? Another year? Like, I'm just wondering. Like, do they not want those guys? But Brendan Dillon, great shutdown guy, very good. 19 points, plus 15 in 56 games. You know what? That's the guy you would want. Those are the guys you want. Pick him up. Why not? And have him. Next one is the UFA, but this is a fantastic pick. I was looking a year ago, I think. But Jamie Oleksiak, let me tell you what he is: 6'7", 255 pounds. I was looking at who has the most, who's the heaviest player a couple months ago. Who's the tallest? One of the heaviest was Dustin Byfuglien, 260. Of course, he's not in the NHL anymore. But next one was 255 in Jamie Oleksiak. This guy's massive. 2011, 14th overall in the first round. This guy's gonna want some money. 14 points in 56 games. But he's not going to get you tons of points, but he's a great shutdown guy. If you want a guy like that, you get a fantastic shutdown guy. Big, strong defenseman from the blue line. Next is Jake Bean. On this one, I'm surprised they didn't give up Brady Shea or something. But Jake Bean, 23-year-old defenseman, 12 points in 42 games, -2. But you know what? I think they can do wonders with him. He is a guy that still has a lot to bring. Absolutely. And another guy can bring a lot to the table. Dylan Cholowski. I actually really did like Dylan Cholowski. He got a lot of shots from the point, a lot of goals in from the point, and then he didn't do very well. He took a step back, putting the Rampant Graphics, with the Rampant Griffins, my bad. And I was like, but I think he can have a really good breakout year with them. I really do think you can absolutely have a great breakout year with him, for sure. Next is Zadorov. Zadorov is another big, kind of that physical defenseman, 26-year-old defenseman. Of course, he was mostly with the Avalanche, but Blackhawks last year, 8 points, 55 games. More of a shutdown defenseman. He is RFA, so you're going to have to sign him. 3.2 million he made last time. May go to 3.5, maybe. And you also have another puck moving guy, and that is Vince Dunn. Vince Dunn, 24-year-old. The Blues tried to trade him. Could not do it, and now he's exposed. I think you go for him over Tarasenko. I'm kind of concerned about Tarasenko, shoulder, etc. about that stuff. But Vince Dunn, 20 points in 43 games. I think he can blossom with the Kraken, moving the puck around. He was scratched a bunch of times this year. He was trying to be traded, all that stuff. But with the Kraken, I think he can do an absolute fantastic job. So hopefully he does. I really hope so. We'll see what happens. Alright, so that's the defense. And let's look at the goalies. And then we'll look at the cap and some info. On my 3 goalies I have is, starting off with Jonathan Quick, long-time LA with his whole career, 2 Stanley Cups in 2012 and 2014. Yes, really downsized in his play because, he's older. He's 35, 2 years on a deal here, 5.8 million buck contract. I think this is the guy you pick. Experience, experience, experience. 286 goals against average, 898 save percentage. Save percentage not the best. The last 3 years hasn't been the best. But he is a flexible goalie. He is a really flexible goalie, really good down low. But they might trade him if they have him. They might trade him for assets, picks, and have Kakinen and Drigo as the goalie duo. Maybe, maybe not. Next is Capo Kakinen. I'm surprised the Wild did not expose Cam Talbot. I would rather lose Cam Talbot over Capo Kakinen. Why would you give up one of your young goalies, Capo Kakinen? If I'm Seattle, I'm like, yeah, that's a no-brainer for me. Capo Kakinen to the team, no joke. He's my player, absolutely. So hey, I would pick Capo Kakinen. Kakinen is your guy, and Capo Kakinen, 24-year-old, 288 goals against average, 902 save percentage. It's hard to go down in his play at the end of the season, but I think he's a really solid goalie. And Drigo, he had his ups and downs, but really good this year. Absolutely fantastic. But I have my question marks about Drigo, but he had looked really good this year. But I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. And in my info, just a couple things about info here. I want to talk about cap space, etc. That stuff. Here we go. Cap space and intro and info. Sorry, 30 players out of 30 were drafted. 18 forwards out of 14. For the forwards, 9 out of 9 for defense, 3 of 3 for the goalies. For the cap space, what is left after all of this? 10.9 million. 70 million cap has been used. You know what? 10.9 million. You can go trade for someone, maybe bring in Tyler Johnson. That's 5 million left. And for the assets, the picks, the prospects to receive from them, not just to bring on Tyler Johnson's contract for free. You're gonna want some stuff to really juice up that deal. But if you want someone in free agency, I would probably use that cap to try to bolster the center depth. The center depth's not very solid here. You would have to go for someone, maybe a second line center, first line, you're not going to find much. Second line, Philippe Deneau's out there. He's a UFA, exclusive rights that can talk to him because they exposed him, Montreal, so they can talk to him as much as they want. That might be a player. Stastny, for a veteran type guy. You have some guys out here you can talk to bolster that center depth, and I think they really should, for sure. So that's what I have. Thanks for watching Ain't Shark News Sports, and I will see you in the next video. Let me know your thoughts on this, and maybe I'll do my hot take mock draft for the expansion draft. Alright, thanks for watching. See you next video.